Hi, it's Matt with Olympus Reptiles. Today we're going to talk about breeding ball pythons. And maybe you're thinking about getting into breeding, maybe you've already got a few you want to breed and you're kind of thinking, do I do this or do I not do it? Maybe you're already putting your snakes together and you've heard about snakes locking, which is just snake sex, and you're not sure what you're seeing. So today we're going to look at some of ours that we're currently breeding and see if we have any locks and see if we have any things that maybe look like a lock but aren't. Some of those things that can confuse brand new breeders. So first, we're going to check on our champagne and our calico. I don't know if you can get in here and look, Kurt. What I like to look for is the tail. And if you can see, you'll probably come right where I'm at and shine in that way. You'll see the calico's tail is up by the champagne's head. So while we've got some cuddling going on, and it looks like, maybe we kind of like each other, we don't have a lock. So here, these snakes maybe are showing a little bit of interest. I don't know if there's been some tickling. They usually will lay on each other. There'll be some movement that you don't always get to see, and then you'll see a lock. So that's not a lock. So what we're going to do is close them back up and leave them be. Next, we're going to check on our albinos. And here, this is ending interesting. Because here you see the two tails together. It'd be really easy to say, man, I see the male's tails beside the females. It looks like it's underneath it. I'm going to call that a lock. But you got to kind of hold on. And I'm pretty careful about saying it's a lock for sure. Because when I look, what I don't see is if it's all underneath there or just kind of beside it. I don't want to disturb him too much to see. I'm just going to leave him be. I wouldn't call that a for sure lock. It looks good. And these are the looks that can confuse you. But what we have here is not quite a lock. I don't know if you're still showing that. You can see the tail I'm talking about is right up against the female's tail. It's underneath it. He might be locked in there, but he might not. So again, we're not going to call that a lock. And you may see the cage is a little bit dirty. I've noticed when I put my snakes together, usually it causes some excitement, some bowel movements, and usually have a dirty cage while you're doing this. So don't mind that if you see it. Here, we're going to look at a normal and a 3-gene male, which is a sulfur lesser pastel. We'll teach about him later. And this is more what you want to see. And what you're seeing now is I see that male's tail is underneath that female's tail. And if you come from this angle, maybe you can see it there. It's all the way underneath, up coming around. Their cloacas are together. When that tail's underneath there like that, and those cloacas are together, what you have is a lock. And this can last anywhere from 20 minutes on up to 48 hours or better. So when you see that and they're locked up, best just to leave them alone. You can kind of track that, kind of keep an idea of who's locking, who's breeding, who's doing good, who's not doing so good. See what we got down here. And it doesn't get any clearer than that. This is what you really want to see. And what we have is a bumblebee to a big pastel female. And again, male's tail's underneath the female's tail. Cloacas are pressed together. You can see hers is even kind of wrapped around his and they're kind of intertwined. And there's no question in my mind, that's a lock. So when you first start your breeding and you put your males and females together and you see that, you know you got it going well. That's when it's time just to smile, close up, and start the waiting game. We'll see what we got going on down here. These are ones that are hard because you get a big mess of snake jumbled up together and you really can't see what's going on. But after doing this for a while, what you can kind of tell is how far the end of that male's tail is. It's underneath the female, and we really can't see it, but I can guarantee you they're not locked up at the moment. It doesn't mean they won't. We're going to let them be, and hopefully they do, but that's not a lock. Unless you see it clearly, don't call it a lock. Why it's important to kind of track that is you want to know what males are doing good breeding, who's breeding who's locked up, so you can kind of track your pairs. And just because you see a lock, don't stop breeding those animals. We have this lock going on here with this normal. And when they're done, I'll take him out, I'll give him a few days off, we'll offer him food, he may not eat, and we'll come back to it and we'll breed again probably next week or the week after. We continue to breed our snakes until we know it's time to stop, until they lose all interest, or until we've seen signs that we're past ovulation, because there's no point in breeding when we're past ovulation. But just because you see them locked once doesn't mean you're going to have eggs. Keep at it until you're sure. It's just like people. You're not going to overbreed and cause them to get more pregnant or less pregnant. So go ahead, keep breeding them. Any questions? Question girl.
Yeah. Well, how do you know that your male is ready to breed to your female?
Well,
Are there signs that they give you so that you're able to know?
there are a couple signs. One is size. Typically, people say about 600 grams for your males to be ready to breed. I've heard of males going earlier than that. Another sign is when you pop a male, sexing them, which we'll do another video on that one of these days, you'll actually see sperm plugs, which is just what it sounds like. I know it's kind of disgusting. And it looks like what you'd expect it to look like. And when you see that, that tells you that your male is fertile, he's producing sperm, and he's ready to breed. You just got to hope it's viable sperm. Anything else?
Time of the year, there's certain times of the year when they are more likely to breed than others.
People have had success all year, especially because we control the weather and lighting conditions. I think depending on where you live and what's successful for you is what makes a difference. I'm in the Midwest. I tend to start breeding what would be kind of the natural season if they lived here, which they don't. And that's usually like late October if I can chase a storm into November where we're at now. And we'll breed all the way through, maybe February, depending on who's gone grab it and who hasn't. So, and we'll usually have clutches hatchling from June, July, August time. So that's kind of our season. But other people have had success at different times of year.
What happens if you have a male who is disinterested in the female that you're trying to breed it to? Do you need to get more beer goggles?
Beer goggles and Marvin Gaye. No, there's a few things you can do. One of the things that I've had some success with, and some of this is a little bit disgusting, so bear with me, is you can take a shed from a male that you have had that is active, because usually it's your newer males that are going to be disinterested, and put that shed in there with the female you're trying to breed. The idea is the scent of another male being in there may spur your young male to start breeding. If that doesn't work, you can even take that shed and kind of rub her down with it. All right? Try to get his scent on her to really try to get her to breed. I've even heard of people taking and when they pop a snake and have sperm plugs, wiping the sperm plug on the back of the female. Again, it's about getting that scent there to try to entice that young male to breed, because there's competition. Last but not least, and this is something you should be very careful doing, and you should be there when you do it, is you can put 2 males in with 1 female. Now, if you're going to do that, you don't put 2 males in, close the cage, and walk away, because they're going to fight. And in nature, that one male can run away, the loser. Well, when they're locked in a tub, they can't. So you can start getting some injuries. You can put them in there, watch them, stay with them, give them 5 or 10 minutes so they kind of get the juices flowing, and then remove the male that you don't want to breed and put him back in his own tub, or put him to the female you want him to breed. And sometimes that can spur your young male into breeding. But the reason you got to monitor that is because you don't really want the snakes to actually combat. You don't want to get anybody hurt, and that's not our goal here. It's just about recreating some of the things that would happen in nature that would spur that male into, hey, it's time to start breeding and pass on my genetic material. Any other questions? All right. Don't forget, I'll cover you this time. Don't forget to like us on Facebook, check out our webpage, follow us on Twitter and YouTube, share our videos, tell the world about us. We really love these things, and hopefully you enjoy this as well. And we'll be back to talk to you again next week.